first story in the last video, I think so, we completed, right? First story we completed of the Steve Jobs. So he's talking about in the first story, connecting the dots means that, there is some people which are working in his factory, some people which are going to work in his factory in the future. That is called connecting the dots. So he's explaining that, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in some things, your good, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down, and it has made all difference in my life. So actually he is explaining that, Steve Jobs is explaining that, like, you cannot connect the dots by looking future. You can connect the dots by looking backward also what you had done. Like for example, if you are opening any company, past is very important. You can connect the dots by looking backwards only, not looking forward. Okay. So first story, I think so, you have understood connecting the dots, and second story is, like he is explaining, my second story is about love and loss. Okay. His second story is related to the love and loss. Okay. And let's start. I found what I love to do early in life. Like Steve Jobs is explaining that he already found what he loved to do. Like for example, many people want to become an engineer and they have found that, like, they love to do, so definitely it is very good for them. Some people till at the age of 40 they didn't found their job, so it is not love, right? So he found, I found what I love to do in early in life. Okay. And who's who's Steve Wozniak, and I started uh, Steve Wozniak and I started Apple when I was 20, and in 10 years Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into $2 billion company. Garage into a $2 billion company, and then I got fired, and it was devastating. Then he lost the job, and it caused severe shock and distress and grief. Like specifically, if I say, like he is explaining, first of all, he found what he liked to do, and the second, he started, uh, he opened this Apple business with a person, with another person named the Steve Wozniak. Okay, Woz, and at that time he was 20, and in 10 years the Apple had grown just, and after 10 years, okay, after 10 years when he was 30, that Apple has grown. Apple has become the very big company at a $2 billion company, and after that he lost the job, and it was very distress for him. But something slowly began to dawn on me, began to clear to, and but something is, began to clear to, the Steve Jobs, and I still love what I did, and I decided to start over. So specifically, he opened one company, two of them, and the company became the $2 billion company. Then he uh, faces some kind of loss, and then after that, again he started. The happiness of the being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. Like specifically, sometimes for businessmen, whenever the businessman is losing, uh, whenever they are losing a business, it becomes very difficult for them to begin again, right? So Steve Jobs are facing a loss, then after that it becomes very difficult for him to begin a business again from zero, we can say. And it freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. Okay. So it actually, make him to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. Like again he started a business, and again he went in the creative part, because in the starting of a business you have to be more creative, right? And during the next 5 years, during the next 5 years, I started a company, and next another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. So, in the next 5 years, like he opened a one Apple company, then after that, in next 5 years, he started another company. The name of that company is Pixar, and he fell in love with an amazing woman, like with his wife. Like in the future, she will become his wife. And Pixar is now the world most successful animation studio. If you see now, like Pixar become the one of the most amazing studio, and Apple bought next. Apple Apple bought next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we develop at technology will develop at next is the heart of the Apple's current renaissance. Like if I talk about and there are three companies developed. The one is the Pixar, Apple, and Next. Okay. Then Apple has bought the Next. Next is also another company. Then I returned to Apple, and the technology we develop at Next is the heart of the Apple's current renaissance. Okay, whatever technology he developed at Next, okay, is the heart of the Apple rebirth. And Lawrence and I have wonderful family together. And the Steve Jobs' wife name is Lawrence, and she is having a wonderful life together, right? So first of all, in the next 5 years, he, next 5 year, he started a company, and next and another company named Pixar, two company he started. Then after that, whatever technology he bought, he applied that technology in the Apple, and then he started living with Lawrence very nicely, very happily. And sometimes the life hits you in the head with a brick. Sometimes the life gives you a shock, immediate, great shock suddenly. Don't lose faith. The only way to do a great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, don't settle. So Steve Jobs now he is explaining that sometimes in life, whatever you are doing, for example, I'm teaching over here. For example, you are a student, you want to become a data scientist, you want to become an engineer, whatever. Like whatever you are doing in your life, it hits you, it will make you shock suddenly, and at that time you don't need to be shocked. You know to keep moving. Okay, to keep move yourself, because this is the only way you have to love to do that. So you have to find that kind of job which you love, because uh, whatever job you are working, if you don't love, definitely it will become very impossible for you to sustain at that point. And then, okay, so always he is saying that you have to love that job what you have to do, right? And about and the third story, okay, my third story is about the faith. Okay, so Steve Jobs third story is related to the death. is it's related to death. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with a cancer. Year ago, about a year ago, he was diagnosed with cancer. My doctor advised me to go home and my get my affairs in order, and which is doctor code for the prepare to die. And which is the doctor code for prepare to die, right? So Steve Jobs has said that the year ago, he got a cancer, and doctor is saying that get my affairs in order. Affairs mean, which means he is saying that prepare to die, which is also again the doctor is indirectly saying you are going to die. I live with that diagnosis all day. Steve Jobs is saying he lived with that diagnosis all day. And later that evening, I had biopsy. Okay, later that evening only, he had a biopsy, and it turned out to be a very from it turned out to be rare form of pancreatic cancer that is curable with surgery. And I had the surgery and I am fine now. So specifically, he got a pancreas cancer. So he had made a surgery also, and it is very rare to do a surgery, and he is fine. He is fine now. Okay, and this was the closest. This was the closest I have been to facing the death. And you know, when he made a surgery, and it was the very closest he he have been to facing a death, and I hope is the closest. And I get for a few more decades. I get for a few more decades. Having lived through it, I can say now. Say this to you. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Like you know, Steve Jobs. In fact, he is a very big person. He is a very biggest person. He is an entrepreneur. He has contributed to the society very nicely. So he have faced the death of a cancer. So he is telling us like we don't need to waste our time. Your time is very limited, so you don't need to waste your time, and you don't need to live for someone else. Don't be trapped by dogma. Dogma means what? Belief, a set of beliefs held by a group or organization. Don't go in the trap of the dogma, like which created by the society, which is living with the result of other people thinking. This dogma people are actually living with the result of other people thinking. Don't let the noise of other opinion drown out. Okay, louder than other sound and prevent it from being heard. Don't let the other don't let the noise of other opinion drown out your own inner voice. So he's explaining that don't be fool in your society. Okay, don't be easily fooled with the society, because society is not for you. And don't let the noise of other opinion in your inner voice. Whatever you are doing, do it by yourself. Don't think about other people. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. Okay, you have to have a courage to follow your heart and institution, and they somehow already know what you truly want to become, right? They somehow already know what you want to truly become. And then, when I was young, there was an amazing publication called the Whole Earth Catalog, and in the final issue, on the back cover, they put a photograph of an early morning country road. Okay, when he was young, and he is explaining that there was a amazing publication, the Whole Earth Catalog, and in the final issue, on the back cover, they put a photograph of the early morning country road, and beneath it, the word says "Stay hungry, stay foolish." Okay, and it was a very farewell message I sang of, and I've always wished that for myself. And now, as you graduate to begin anew, I wish stay hungry, stay foolish. Okay, so I'm going to stop over here.